Hey guys, it's Caleb. I'm 21 and I currently live in Alberta. There's a question of how would you describe being trans in one word? And the only real reason I can come up with, or only answer I can come up with, is it's complicated. I find that being trans is really, you're kind of stuck in the middle all the time. Either people think you're kind of an other because you're not really male and you're not really female. But it's also complicated because you kind of have to decide whether or not you want to be stealth or if you want to be open. And it's something that I still, 2 years in my transition, 2 years on testosterone, 3 years hopefully transitioning, that I still haven't quite figured out yet. I find that part of me really wants to advocate for trans rights and things that could be improved, but at the same time I don't really feel like outing myself is the best way to do that. And I feel with outing myself that I kind of lose this initial respect that I get from a lot of people from being male. And I understand that that's part of the male privilege kind of thing, but I just don't really like being seen as something different. And that's really difficult when you're thinking about, wanting to advocate for, especially in Canada at least, trans rights, and not having my birth name or my gender being discussed in my workplace and like people outside of my district or people that I don't really talk to knowing that I'm trans. And that level of privacy is not really something that is protected by law. Like in a way it is, but not very many people are educated on it. Not very many people understand that it's not okay to like tell someone that's without my permission that I'm trans, or to discuss personal information about me with other people that I work with. And that's a really difficult thing to try to navigate when you're trying to advocate for other people, but you're also wanting to speak from personal experience, but you can't necessarily speak from personal experience because other people know that you're trans. So it is really difficult, and I wish that I could say like that trans is being awesome and I'm happy to be trans, but at the end of the day it's really difficult to navigate, and it has made my life a little bit more difficult and has made me have instances that I wasn't necessarily preparing for when I was like transitioning. And I think that it's important to discuss that because I do feel a lot more comfortable, and I've made a lot of progress in my transition, but I still feel like there's certain aspects that aren't as kosher and as, I guess, easy as I would like it to be. I wish that I could, be open about being trans and not worry about being ridiculed for it. But unfortunately, that's the kind of world that we live in, where if I discuss that I'm trans, I have a very high possibility of people not accepting that and not understanding it. And unfortunately, to educate people takes a lot of time. And even with my family, like I've had to, not disclose that I'm trans with certain people of my family because I don't know how they're going to react and I don't know how they're going to take it. And having that relationship in my life is almost more important than me being out to them. So I think that there's a lot of gray area that's not necessarily discussed about being trans that I think is important for people to understand and to accept and realize that, like getting on testosterone is super exciting and getting top surgery is really exciting, but there's a lot of sticky middle ground that you have to get through in terms of life and legislation and all this other stuff that makes it not necessarily as exciting as you would hope it would be. And I think those are the kind of realities that we have to discuss and we have to be open about, and everybody should share their opinions on, because otherwise people who are transitioning are going to think that it's happy-go-lucky, but there is a lot of negativity that comes with it, and there is a lot of challenges that come with it. But I can say that going through this transition has made me a lot stronger of a person, and I have in a way learned how to deal with that negativity a lot easier than I did beforehand. And I've learned, to stand up for myself when I get misgendered, or to try to educate people that, like we're not trying to use bathrooms to be sexual predators. We're using them because we really just need to pee. Like, these are things that people just cannot seem to understand, and that if we don't talk about them, then they're never going to change. But at the same time, if we talk about them, we also put ourselves at risk, and that's a really sticky middle ground to be a part of, and it's not always the easiest to navigate. So that's, to me, what being trans is. It's kind of being in this middle ground through everything in life, whether it's how my gender appears on my driver's license compared to my healthcare card, or having to explain to people why I changed my name legally, and whether I want to tell them the real truth or if I want to kind of give them some kind of lie that I don't have to explain it as much. And for the most part, I'd say that, like, in health instances and that sort of thing, like, people haven't really been that negative towards me for being trans, and I think that it's becoming a little bit more common, but there is still a lot of things that aren't necessarily talked about that should be, in terms of, job security and what kind of information you can give out in a job. And a lot of people that haven't really been around trans people don't really realize that there's certain things that we want to keep private, and that really is not for their disclosure to discuss. And I feel like until a lot of us band together and kind of demand that these things change, or that more education is being built for all kinds of different organizations, that it's not going to change. And I can't tell you how many times I've had doctors who have nothing to do with my other health. Like, I was in rheumatology, and they asked me if I was getting bottom surgery, and it was none of their business, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I have aches and pains in my muscles and joints. So there is a lot of things that need to be discussed, and I think for me it's just discussing or deciding whether I want to be open about it, or if it's maybe better for me for now to not discuss it. And that's kind of a really sticky middle ground.